This episode of the Guy Pod is brought to you by the Shops at Coldwater and Citadel Insurance Group, an Allstate agency. Citadel can take care of all of your insurance needs, from auto and homeowners to boats and life insurance and everything in between. Call 256-826-5309 to speak to one of our trusted advisors to see if Citadel can get you in a better place on your insurance. Citadel Insurance Group is open Monday through Friday from 8 to 6. The Shops at Coldwater, one of a handful of retail incubators in Alabama, is the home to a highly curated gift shop and boutique located in beautiful, historic downtown Tuscumbia, Alabama. They specialize in gifts for everyone in the family, on-trend clothing for women and kids, and have a unique mix of snacks, including glass bottle Sundrop and Frios gourmet pops. Stop in at 109 East 6th Street in Tuscumbia and see what everyone's talking about. The Shops at Coldwater are open Tuesday through Saturday, 10-ish to 6-ish, and Sundays and Mondays when they feel like it. And now, here are your hosts of the Guy Pod, Josh Kelly, Skip Nichols, and Adam Gooch.
What's up?
Pod. I'm Skip Nichols.
Josh Kelly.
Adam Gooch.
What's up, guys?
How y'all doing?
What's up, fellas?
I am really excited to be here for multiple reasons. One is, quarantine is slowly, we're not as quarantined, let's say that now.
Right.
Things are opening back up. It's kind of rejuvenated me. If I feel like a different person. I shaved off the beard. I'm just, I'm happy to be here. Happy Friday, everybody.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
I'm happy to be anywhere, and I'm glad the economy is kind of starting to open back up a little bit and kind of get things back to some semblance of normal. I know it's not going to be anything like, what we experienced in January and February, but at least the doors cracked open a little bit, and hopefully we can kick it on open pretty soon. Pretty excited about that.
Absolutely. Sure. Well, I'm really excited about something. Adam, do you want to tell them what I'm really excited else about? Did I say that right? What I'm really excited else? What else I'm really excited about?
What else you're really excited about? What else are you really excited about?
Tell us. We got a surprise
about our very special surprise for the night.
Yes.
So we are hosting a very special episode tonight. And so we could not have this episode with the content we were going to talk about tonight. Skip, what are we talking about tonight?
We are talking about something that our viewers told us we needed to do an episode on, and that's came up a little bit in fake news last week, wrestling. And a lot of the viewers were like, hey, y'all need to do an episode on wrestling. And I'm like, what is more Guy Pod than freaking wrestling?
That's it. So we knew we could not do a wrestling show without having this special guest on. So this is a guy who's been a good friend of mine. We basically grew up together, so I've known him for a really long time. He is the better looking half of one of the hottest musical duos in the entire Shoals area, Drum and Drummer. But for our purposes tonight, he is the host of the Wrestling Reel on 97.9 Fox Sports The Shoals every Wednesday. None other than the Chad Burdine. Let's welcome him to the show. Look at him.
Yeah. Yay! What's up, guys?
What's up, Chad?
Glad to be here on the Guy Pod with all you guys today. Thank you so much for having me, and happy Friday as well. I'm glad this whole quarantine issue and dilemma is somewhat coming to a head, and we can get back to somewhat what the new normal may be. What that is, we don't know yet, but I'm stoked to, at least to be here with a romantic atmosphere with you guys tonight. So
no doubt.
It's going to be fun. So we have zero agenda tonight other than talking about wrestling, because this is Alabama, and that's how we say it.
It's RASSLIN.
It's not wrestling. It's wrestling. So, Chad, tell us real quick, how did you get a radio show about wrestling? How did that happen?
Well, I was in a group called the Local Saints a few years ago, and our manager or managers was Hallie Phillips and Jerry Phillips, part of the famous Sam Phillips family. And we were tracking our record at Sam Phillips Studio on Madison Avenue. for several weeks, and my partner and drummer Justin Holder and I, like, we've been friends for so long. We just have like this magnetic chemistry that's, I'm not gonna lie, it's somewhat undeniable, and because we're just so over the top. But Hallie and Jerry, her father Jerry, just approached us one night. I think just after we just had a really, really long day of tracking, was like, you guys want to do a wrestling show on Fox Sports Shoals? And like, it was one of those moments, like, we looked at each other, we were like, yeah,
Absolutely.
and totally. And so about 2 or 3 weeks later, we had some meetings in the boardroom with the other people from Big River Broadcasting. And then it just all kind of snowballed from there. So it was just one of those things. It's like, they knew that we were ultimate pro wrestling fans, because we would show up at our gigs with our championship belts and we'd put it over our drum set, or like the percussion area or our mic stand or something. So you always saw us, and we were playing we'd be playing like, it was competitive horse is what we would play in Justin's backyard. And the winner of it got to hold the title. And, you had bragging rights for an entire week until you had to put it up for grabs the following week. So, I mean, pro wrestling is in our blood, man. I've been watching it all my life. And it's so cool that the Phillips family asked us to do that. And we've been on air now for coming up on 5 years. It's hard to believe it's been half a decade we've been
That's awesome.
Live on the air. But yeah, we did that every single Wednesday, 11 a.m. till noon on Fox Sports Shoals 97.9. It's the wrestling reel because it's still real to us.
I love it. So I want to talk about, I'm probably not going to bring anything educational to this tonight. Shocker.
That's
because I normally, to be honest, I don't ever, but especially tonight. But, 3 of us are pretty close to the same age.
Hey, now.
In case y'all didn't realize that Skip's a little older. I'm 37. Gooch, you're 37. Chad, how old are you?
I've turned 35 in just a few weeks.
Okay, so we're all pretty close.
And I'm in my 30s. We'll just go there.
Skip's 50. And he's 50. But
I'm 50. I love it.
So I want to say, I believe that there was 2 great eras of pro wrestling. Two great eras of pro wrestling. The first was the mid 80s, when Hulkamania, you had Hulk Hogan, Rowdy Piper, Andre the Giant. They had the cartoon. Do you remember the cartoon? It was amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm talking the yellow and red Hulkamania brother, that part. That was the first greatest one. And then the second was the late 90s, which I like to lovingly call the Stone Cold era.
But no,
that's the best too.
But what you forget, Josh, is that all of the pre-work done in the mid 70s to like 1983, 84, when all the wrestling was happening in these little sectors around the nation, and they all came together under the NWA, the National Wrestling Alliance, I think in like the 50s. But a huge part of my childhood was watching Georgia Championship Wrestling on back then it was Channel 17 out of Atlanta, later became TBS. But in like 1983, Georgia Championship Wrestling got bought out by 3 of the wrestlers, and they brought us the likes of Hulk Hogan and Rowdy Piper and some of those. And then they sold that to Vince McMahon in 1984. Jerry Briscoe, Jack Briscoe, and Jim Barnett, 3 of the wrestlers, and I think Ole Anderson, they sold it to WWF. So I think you have to do it kind of like comic books. You got to have like a gold age, a silver age, and a bronze age.
Well, let me put it. I look at it this way. To your comment, I look back at a Model T, right? That was a car and it got you around. Yes, it was one of the first ones, but I really like my new Silverado. I like an F-150 now. I would much rather drive that every day. It's better.
But you also know, and you said to me a million times, if your dream truck is a 1985 short bed Silverado.
Absolutely.
So,
hence my mid '80s comment.
But in the realm of this, you were no, not even close.
What say you guys? What's the greatest eras in your opinion?
I would agree with that. I think which I think they actually do break them up into eras. I'll let Chad speak to that. So the golden era was like mid '80s to like early '90s. So that's when I was a little kid. So like up till I was 10, 11, you came up and it was the Ric Flair days, the Ultimate Warrior days. But I'm absolutely of the opinion that the Attitude Era, so Stone Cold, I don't really know where it splits. Chad, you can help me. I don't know if like the NWO, WCW days, I don't know if that really is considered Attitude Era. It's kind of like the bridge part, but I was all into some wrestling when it was NWO, baby. I was going to matches. I was in.
Absolutely. Well, in my opinion, it's hard to say what for picking two favorite eras, because we've all I feel like the common denominator that we can all agree on is the golden age, and then you had the early '90s where you got very cartoonish, and then which ushered in the notorious Attitude Era. The Austin era has begun. But if I could, I would have loved to have grown up and been like in the moment with the '70s wrestling, when there were still territories, before it became very commercial, when kayfabe was still intact, and you never saw. We didn't know anything about the real life personas. It was still, they were who they were is who they were. I would have loved to have grown up, around like with the Von Erichs or the Freebirds, in the '70s. I would have loved, because when you hear a common denominator from that time, I mean, the Von Erichs and the Freebirds, I mean, they were national celebrities. I mean, they couldn't go anywhere with girls just going absolutely nuts over them,
I understand that.
And then you had real life heat too. Like, people were wanting to murder some people, after certain shows, because they were doing their job so well, So, but as far as like experience, I mean, you've got to say the golden era. I mean, you have to, because I feel like that was kind of what we were all established in. Was, like you mentioned, Josh, with Hulkamania starting to run wild. When Vince McMahon took a big gamble on WrestleMania 1, and then from then on, it was so commercial. It became a worldwide brand. But then you cannot know. I mean, it was the greatest era in wrestling. It has to be, from a financial standpoint, was by far the Attitude Era. There will never, ever, ever be another time such as that. And just, I mean, what's hard to believe is like that was even, before social media. They were getting those kind of numbers. So imagine what that time, would have been like with social media. So I'm definitely going with the Attitude Era, because the Nitro parties, the Nitro girls and stuff like that. Obviously, it was a lot of fun. As my wife is looking at me going. So.
I read something one time that said that Stone Cold outsold every other wrestler in merchandise added together times 10 or something ridiculous like that. I know I remember, probably for me, around ninth grade. I don't know what year that was. Do the math. I'm 37. How many years ago it was? Ninth grade to me was the height of
98.
that era. 1998. So I had like 3 or 4 Stone Cold shirts that I could wear to school. I had a couple that I couldn't wear to school, and like, it was amazing. I had the NWO t-shirts.
It was pop culture.
Oh man, now, like, when we're just talking in normal everyday life, we have certain colloquial phrases and things that we say and different things. Like, that was part of my language. I talked like him. I spoke like him. I said the same stuff. I mean, just, that's how I responded to everyday language. I'm surprised. Like, I don't know how my mom dealt with that stuff, but I mean, it was amazing. And, and it was great TV. Great TV.
Great entertainment. It really was, all across the eras. It was just super entertainment.
I love it. I actually got to see Hulk Hogan live in Huntsville, Alabama, when I don't know how old I was, but I was like little. I mean, I was like pre-kindergarten, probably 4 or 5, along through there, and we were sitting way up in the nosebleeds, and I fell asleep right before Hulk Hogan came out. But I up until like 2 or 3 years ago, I still had the finger, the Hulkamania finger. But so technically, I was there when he was live, but I'd actually see.
So question for everybody: what is the first match you can remember seeing live? I'll go first because it's obviously going to be the oldest one. We're circa 1976.
Well, you had to see it live because they didn't have TV then, right?
I'll kill you. 1976, maybe at the Russellville Coliseum. So fine establishment that is no
Wrestlers were actually in black and white back then. That's what's weird.
They were. The whole world was in black and white. And I saw Tojo Yamamoto wrestle a masked dude named the Superstar. And that was, I thought I had arrived because these was the guys that we would watch on Channel 31 out of Huntsville on Saturday afternoons and Sunday afternoons. And there they were 5 feet away from me in this little tiny arena in Russellville, Alabama. And it was like the greatest thing in the world.
That's awesome. I saw, I don't know what it was called, but my mom's ex-husband had a couple of brothers that wrestled. And they, at one point, one of them got semi-famous. He was a bad guy. And we were in Albertville, Alabama, in this National Guard gym or something like that. And I remember I was probably, I don't know, 10, 11 on through there. And they had this belt match. But, like, this wasn't fake. I'm not insinuating that any of it's fake, but, like, they were taking these belts.
Watch it.
That's what I'm saying. I say, so they were taking these belts and like hitting them with it, right? And I was like, I'm going to be a wrestler. I want to do this right now. And my, I guess step uncle at the time, he wore like this black leotard with like this black mask, and he was a big old dude with a mullet. Because this is what you wore as a wrestler, was a mullet, a permed mullet. And they were hitting each other with belts. And my stepdad's mom was there. Well, she got mad at him and went and punched the guy and got thrown out of the gym. And it was awesome. After that moment, like I love her.
I love her already.
It was so. But I'm gonna tell you something. These guys were going all out. Like it was. I mean, it was like they were hurting each other. I loved it, you know. And then my second favorite thing. So I was probably 16, 17. The last time, you know, during that time when they came to Huntsville, we went, me and my buddy Jeremy Farmer, and I got the slow clap started.
You're the slow clap.
I got the slow clap started for everywhere. It's like boom, boom. So, you know, you start going faster. I got that started for the entire arena, and it was amazing.
Explain the concept of the slow clap to us and our audience.
Well, I needed you to see it and feel it. It was great. It was great.
I think the first match, well, at least my most memorable match, I was, like Josh said, I was probably 9th grade, 8th grade. This was in the, not just the NWO days, this was the Sting leather jacket, like crow face paint days.
Oh,
when you never knew when the lights in the arena were going to go off and Sting was going to come dropping in with his baseball bat from the rafters, you know?
I just got kill bumps.
Oh, come on. But we were, I think we went to Nashville for a Nitro event. And it's the only time in my life where I was within one decision away from my dad beating this drunk dude to a pulp because he spilled his beer all over my mom. And my dad about lost it, got in this dude's face. That dude went back. And I was ready for it to go down in the stands, but it just
and to be honest, Kenny Gooch is big enough to be a wrestler.
he could throw, you know.
He's a hoss.
He could throw down a little bit.
I don't know how
that
old
just
he
sounds
is,
like a wrestler's name,
but,
Kenny Gooch.
Right?
Like he's an older dude now, but I wouldn't fight him.
Yeah.
To be fair, I don't want to fight. I don't want to fight anybody, but like I really would. Like he's still pretty strong.
You get old man strength. There is old man strength. That's a real thing.
Yeah, that's
it
true.
is.
That's true.
Yeah,
Skip, it's definitely a real thing.
Yeah, you let somebody come do something to my kid, my 22-year-old kid. Old man strength comes out. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, seeing NWO, seeing that whole the Giant in his day, Hollywood Hogan, so he had already joined NWO by that time.
Man.
And these guys are just not only their personas are larger than life, but they are literally larger than life. The Giant walking down that aisle and you see him walk by you, he's wider than a refrigerator and taller than a door, you know? And it's just unbelievable how big some of those guys are.
I think sometimes the athleticism that they have to use and that they have gets lost sometimes because if we're being honest, and I don't mean this as a term of endearment, it's a redneck soap opera, in that terminology, like women watch Days of Our Lives, things like that. I mean, because it's as much the storylines and what's going on as it is what's happening, and it's like the perfect scenario. Well, these guys are amazing athletes.
Yeah.
I mean, if they fall the wrong way or something, they're paralyzed, I mean, and when you see them jump off the top of the cage and fall through 2 ladders and break through a table, they're really doing that. I mean, that's not special effects. I mean, so saying it's fake or real, I mean, what's fake? I mean, that they fell through those tables? No, that's 100% real.
Let's say it's somewhat scripted, but it's the action's real.
Yeah, it's predetermined. It's predetermined, but it's not fake.
So, Chad, who was your first match? What's the first one you can remember?
I mean, I've been to so many live events. I mean, I've been to 3 WrestleManias. I've been to countless Raws and SmackDown. I've been to a few AEW shows. I mean, you name it, I've been to them. But my very first match I ever went to, my dad took me to a Nitro in Huntsville at the Von Braun Center in '97. And before you actually walk to your seat, you can kind of look through like the little tunnel and you can see what's kind of going on in the arena. I remember walking, just highly anticipating. The excitement was there. I couldn't wait to go to my seat. So I kind of took a peek, before I kind of walked down and got to my designated area. And I remember seeing so vividly, I can remember right now, it was Ice Train and Fire Scott Norton in a tag team match against, can we say Chris Benoit on here? Can we say that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah. We're not blackballing him on the show. Okay, cool. Versus Chris Benoit and Dean Malenko. And I remember seeing that. I'll never forget going, okay, I'm about to witness professional wrestling, And I remember watching it from right there. But that was, and Adam, you mentioned, the Crow Sting. That was actually the way that show went off air. It was where DDP came in the ring and he was trying to save the day, and they all beat up DDP. Bang! And DDP is getting beat up on. So Sting rappels down. He actually hooks DDP up to his harness, and they both rappel back up to the rafters. Chills again right there. One of the greatest, send-offs. And every time I go back to the Von Braun Center, I think that I'll always look up in the rafters as wondering if Sting's still up there.
What's happening next?
But I mean, you mentioned, seeing Hulk Hogan and all that. Like, I actually got to meet him once, and this was during his run with Impact Wrestling or TNA. And I got to meet him and his daughter, Brooke, backstage. And Brooke is just about as big as Hulk is. I mean, she is.
You remember that reality show?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
I watched it. I don't think that helped the Hulkster very much. Hey, Skip, can you pop Josh Bird's comment up on the screen?
Yeah.
Because it's worth everybody seeing.
It's worth jumping in there, yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
That was great.
What was the name of that reality? Was it Hogan Knows Best? No,
that's it. Yeah,
was it
Hogan Knows Best. Yep.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Well, he needed the money. He needed the money. He was going broke.
Yeah.
Same reason why he joined TNA. I mean, he was going broke, and then of course, he had all those other scandals, and now he's like one of the richest guys, and if not the richest guy ever in professional wrestling from his compensation from, the trial. So
yeah,
it's crazy run that guy's had.
Right.
I have a confession. So I was so hardcore heavy into wrestling in the late 90s that we actually did backyard wrestling. and we had mattresses and we had box springs, and we had a ring that we built in this guy's backyard. And me and my buddy Jeremy, we were a tag team, and we were the clowns. We wore face paint like a clown. We had red wigs, and we had the outfits. The videos are somewhere out there. That was back in the VHS, the big thing days. I have no idea. This was in Fayetteville, Tennessee. Actually, it was Park City, Tennessee. It was it was Fayetteville, but not really Fayetteville, And it's kind of like Petersville to Florence. But we did that for a couple of years. They videoed all of it. We had announcers. We had intro music, the whole 9 yards. I would give pretty much anything to see those now, but we were the clowns. That was our tag team deal, and none of us were in shape. But what's cool is that two of the guys that used to do that with us actually became wrestlers. Wow. They never made it to like the level of WCW, that type of stuff, but they traveled around and were, all these regional shows and stuff like that. It was pretty cool. But I've actually legit backyard wrestled.
You got a cease and desist letter from Doink, right, for gimmick infringement? That's what it was. Doink and Dink.
That's why we had to. I forgot what our names were. It was something stupid. It was something that a 14-year-old thought was really awesome. At the time.
The clowns. Give it up for the clowns.
My favorite. You got to remember growing up, though. See, I didn't do the mattress and box springs, but you didn't live if you weren't a kid that still had your wrestling buddy. Y'all remember wrestling buddies?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
I had the $1 Million Man and the Ultimate Warrior, and we would throw down on some trampolines with our wrestling buddies.
I was working on my second mortgage by the time Wrestling Buddies came out. So we got
I had one.
We got a question from Thad Boughton. What's your dream matchup from across the eras?
Ooh, so like pick anybody against anybody.
Yep. Tag team or single action, I don't care.
So, all right, I need to think about it for a second. Somebody else go.
Okay, I'm going to go because I saw this question a while ago and I've actually been giving it some thought. I would be Tony Atlas and Ric Flair from late 70s versus Hulk Hogan and Jake the Snake Roberts in a tag team match. That would be one I would pay to see.
What's the story? What's the build behind it?
Well, Hulk Hogan and Jake were the ones that were like really coming up when I kind of drifted off from watching wrestling, and Ric Flair and Tony Atlas were like the bomb partners when I was heavily watching it week in, week out. And honestly, that era, I mean, it takes me back to a lot of time I spent with my dad. You talked about your dad going and taking you to the Nitro match there. And my dad, if wrestling was on, he was in his chair and you didn't say a word. You watched it with him. You didn't talk about it. You watched. And then when it was all over, you broke it down hour by hour, match by match. But it just kind of takes me back to those days of kind of getting to hang with Dad. Of course, not to take this down a sad road, but Dad's been gone a few years now, and that was just a fun time hanging out with Dad, watching those guys wrestle. So it was that would be my dream match.
I got my answer. So this was off the cuff, and I feel like after I've said this, and like tonight I'm going to wake up at 1 a.m. and be like, God, why did I say this? So off the cuff. So in their prime, Ric Flair and Steve Austin, everything I'm going to say tonight is going to involve Stone Cold because he's the best. So Ric Flair and Steve Austin, tag team partners, both of them in their prime, against the Ultimate Warrior and Bret the Hitman Hart. Now, Ultimate Warrior, face paint, multicolored, the whole shebang. I think that would be a fun match to see. Just because I feel like that would be fun. I have no deep story like Skip, and that was on the fly.
So I'm going to go, and then I'll let the expert give his, because his is going to actually probably have more thought behind it. But I've got two answers, so I'm going to give two answers instead of going tag teams, because I just think it'd be cool matches to see. So I would like to see the Golden Era Giant, right? Andre the Giant versus the Big Show Giant. Giant versus Giant. Just because they're both massive, and I think that'd be cool to see. The others,
Chad and or Natalie agree with you. We don't know.
We don't, Chad. So Chad B, we're not sure who it is because they have a joint Facebook account.
Yep. The other that I would say, and so me growing up, he was never one of my favorite wrestlers, but when you talk about the athleticism, entertainment from the time they came in the ring until they went out, I'm going to go Ricky the Dragon Steamboat versus Rey Mysterio Jr.
Ooh, that would be fun.
You talk about high-flying, energy, athletes, the Dragon versus Mysterio is what I'm going.
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
Mine, I mean, there's obviously you can go with anybody here. I was a really big CM Punk fan when he was active. And also the Macho Man. I think if you put both of them together in a match, not only would you get like some technical prowess from both competitors, but the build up for that match, both guys on a mic, I mean, that's box office. I mean, they would, on a promo level, their back and forth verbiage with each other would be phenomenal. I mean, it'd be outstanding. And I just use the word phenomenal. You know, it was teased a couple years ago to see AJ Styles, and he was trying to get Shawn Michaels to come out of retirement. And I would have loved to see AJ Styles and the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, go one-on-one. But I'm going to have to go with CM Punk versus the Macho Man, because both of those, I feel like a build for that kind of monumental matchup would just it'd be box office, and you know, and that's where you try to get the money, is from your box office take. So that's mine. And that's just off the top of my head. I could, you know, we all could go with so many different scenarios and matchups, but I'm just going CM Punk versus Macho Man Randy Savage.
So I love Macho Man.
Absolutely.
So it's so funny. So Allstate, I'm an Allstate agent, makes us do these 17-digit passwords, and it's so dumb, and it changes every 30 days, and who can remember that? So I do wrestler names because they're long, like Stone Cold Steve Austin, Macho Man Randy Savage. I've had both of those as passwords, so every time I change it to a wrestler name, just because that's the only thing I could think of that was long enough that my brain could remember. You know, somebody commented in there, Trevor Cartoni said something about The Rock. Who remembers The Rock even as a wrestler? Can we consider The Rock a wrestler anymore?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Is he still a wrestler, or is he an actor?
He's always a wrestler.
What's he better known?
Yeah.
I wonder though, at the end of his career, what's he going to be better known for? You know, I mean, he was a great wrestler. I mean, I like The Rock, but now, you know, as an actor, I mean, I've almost forgot about him as the wrestler.
You know, no one in all of history except possibly John Belushi raises an eyebrow as well as The Rock.
I can't do it.
Touche.
I can't do it.
Well, yeah, it's funny. You mentioned The Rock, so I got a butt in here. So, you know, on Facebook, or, you know, your photos, albums, whatever, it says like on this day, and so you have a time to reminisce. Well, I think it was like 2 nights ago, I was going through my on this day, and I went to a Raw in Nashville. I had second row seats. And you guys may have remembered this. This is the build, I feel like, for CM Punk versus The Rock. And The Rock was a champ at the time. Well, The Rock had quite the history of living in Nashville. And basically, I know for a fact Vince McMahon just said, hey, just take the microphone out there and just entertain. Just do what you do best. So he was taking everybody down like memory lane about all the time he spent in Nashville when he was in high school, and buying a car from a crack dealer and having to return it back, you know, to a Burger King on Broadway and all this jazz. But I'll never forget saying that he walked into this bar and in walked someone magical. And if you guys know me at a wrestling show, my voice carries very strongly, and I'm not scared to draw attention to myself whatsoever. And I'm more than likely the most fun person to ever go to a live show with. Like you just mentioned the slow clap, bro, you ain't got nothing on me. I'm serious though. No, we all need to go to a show. But he said, and in walked someone magical. And there was like a half second of like spare opportunity where I just took advantage of it. I just yelled, Jeff Jarrett, because we're in Nashville, right? And he's like the king of wrestling in Nashville. The Rock breaks character on live, on Raw, on USA, looks right at me, goes, nope, not Jeff Jarrett. Looks, and everybody's laughing in the crowd because, he's over TNA at the time, or Impact. Jeff Jarrett is, and he has not been mentioned at all on WWE programming in years and still had it. And then you hear Jerry Lawler laughing his tail off because I went back and watched the DVR or the recording of it, and they're all losing it. Jeff Jarrett is trending nationwide on Twitter and then in multiple languages all over Google for like the next day and a half, for like the next like almost 36 hours. And so there's a lot of banter back and forth on Twitter between Jeff Jarrett and The Rock. And everybody's thinking, oh, Jeff Jarrett's coming back to WWE, or Jeff Jarrett's getting inducted to the Hall of Fame this year. No, I just took 1 second opportunity and just was being a smart aleck, and said, Jeff Jarrett. And he breaks character, looks right at me, says, nope, not Jeff Jarrett. And that was my Rock moment. Cool. And that popped up on my memories a couple nights ago.
That's cool. You know a great bad guy? Chris Jericho.
Yeah. Well, he's, in my opinion, the top 5 of all time.
A lot of, everybody, my favorite ones were the ones I hated the most, and Chris Jericho was just, you never know what he was going to do or whatever else. What an amazing entertainer. And I think that's why The Rock translated so well into acting. Speaking of translating so well into acting, John Cena hasn't. Can I be honest that I don't like John Cena? I just think John Cena's dumb.
Why?
I've never liked him because I think he's a nerd and he's a horrible actor. I just don't like him. Could he smash me into smithereens? Absolutely. He's a multi-millionaire. He does not need my approval whatsoever. I just never liked him. I don't know why. I feel the same way about Kevin Bacon. Can't stand Kevin Bacon. Hate his face. I mean, I don't like the way he looks, the way he talks. I will not watch any movies with Kevin Bacon in it. And I kind of feel the same way about John Cena. I mean, I'll watch movies with him if he's in it, but I just don't really like him. But I don't really have any good reasons.
You love the Froggy Fresh / Krispy Kreme songs about him.
I was going to say, I will always be a fan because
of course. The Christmas song.
Yeah.
John Cena action figure. That's old school Krispy Kreme.
Yes.
Before he got a cease and desist.
Not a sponsor.
And it became Froggy Fresh.
Yeah. But I
think people just got like, you think about how much he's just been the face for so long. I think people get tired of him, but I think it's the same way probably because I don't remember it because I wasn't old enough that Hogan was that way when they started back in the golden era of the 80s. Like he was everywhere. He headlined like the first 9 WrestleManias, so like he was always the champion. He was always, people wanted him to lose just because I'm tired of you being the champion. And I think Cena's that way. I think people just, they don't want him to win because they're tired of him winning.
That's fair. That's fair. Chris Jericho, I'm still on Chris Jericho in my head. He's got a rock band. They're not very good, but they don't suck.
Ozzy. Yeah.
But they're okay.
Huh.
They're cool. So
his that song Judas, which is actually his theme song right now. Have you guys been watching AEW at all on Wednesday nights?
No.
Gotta watch it. I mean, it's such a great alternative. Well, it's not the best time right now because obviously there's no fans in attendance right now, and that's something kind of cool to talk about too.
It's weird.
It's very weird, but it just goes to show you. We talked about athleticism, how great they are, but not only that, just how pro wrestling is a business based on reaction. It really is. It's they get their money from reaction. If you don't get that, there's no money. There's no money. But you mentioned Chris Jericho and their band and his band Fozzy. Like his theme song is called Judas, and it's a really good catchy song. But obviously all the pro wrestling fans are known as marks, right? So at AEW shows, they're singing lyric for lyric nonstop. The entire chorus, like when that chorus hits, I become. I mean, they all just go nuts, and it's a really cool song. But Chris Jericho plays the face and the heel so well. Even though he enjoys being a heel, he knows how to get a pop from the crowd.
Yeah.
He's the GOAT in my opinion, and he's able to change with the times, continuously reinventing himself. He can get anything over. He can get a catchphrase over. He can get a scarf over. He can get a list over. He can get absolutely anything over because he is that smart. He's the ultimate entertainer in the pro wrestling world. Chris Jericho.
Agreed.
To me, that's one of the coolest things when you talk about all of us are business owners. We all do business. Like, to me, wrestling is so interesting because of how they've had to. We talk about all these different eras, but all the eras are in response to dollars. Like, okay, we're having to pivot and shift our entire business model, how we're portraying our characters, the storylines we're telling. You see that ebb and flow because it's all business and how they're. When you see, of course, now, like you see Triple H, like you take him out of the ring, he's a genius when it comes to the business world, So I love just watching them from that perspective of if anybody's had to reinvent themselves and still make a profit during this time, it's wrestling.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You know what we haven't talked about? Vince McMahon.
Oh, yeah. In 99 when they first became like $1 billion a year industry, he was running out of people that he was able to find coming up through the ranks to be a heel. And so what did he do? The CEO of the freaking company jumps in the ring as a heel.
It's like, I got this.
I'm like, tag me in.
He plays that. So a lot of people's egos get in the way of things. All of our egos get in the way of stuff on a daily basis. Whether you think you don't have one or you do or whatever, it happens. He is, I mean, as far as from the outside looking in, from the business perspective, he's played the bad guy. He's played there's something in here. There's a gnat in here. He played the bad guy. Yeah, that's what it was. And all that so well that I just always thought that was super brilliant because I can't stand him, but I love him for that, you know? And that's a lot of people's. I've been watching the last
Dark Side.
The Jordan documentary,
Last Dance.
Last Dance, and Jerry Krause, that stupid GM. Like, I hate him, but just because I hate him. Well, I hated Vince McMahon for the same reasons, but Vince McMahon was playing a part, and which made me like him. So I don't know if that made sense at all, what I just said, but he's brilliant.
I can't wait for a tell-all book or biopic or something, because I just assumed that you were talking about the Dark Side of Wrestling, which comes on, I think, every Tuesday on the Vice Network at like 9 p.m. It's obviously, it is what it is. It's the dark side of wrestling. It's the dark stories that a lot of people don't know about, but Vince McMahon has seen it all. He has seen everything. He's been involved with more scandal and more propaganda than anybody in the sports related world. And he's overcome every single one of them, whether it's steroids, whether it's a death of a wrestler, whether it's, you name it, he has overcome it somehow, some way. The dude's on top. And you cannot knock him off, even though that was the rule number one that all territory, bookers said, that they would never compete against each other. They would lend talent to each territory, but they would never compete against each other. And that was the one thing that everybody just hated Vince at the beginning when he competed and he went national. Then he went, worldwide, and then Chris Jericho actually narrates that Dark Side of Wrestling. So again, that just proves another reason why he's the greatest, But you mentioned, the playing a character with Vince McMahon. First of all, I loved him on commentary because he knew how to get over the talent. He knew how to get over the story because it was his creation. It was his idea. Who better to put it over on television than hearing it from the horse's mouth, you know? But him playing the evil Mr. McMahon character, and then Austin being he was a tweener. He wasn't a heel. He wasn't a face. He was a tweener. He was an in-betweener, you know. But who would not want to beat up your boss? That's what made it so relatable to everybody. It's like you get revenge on someone that just works you to death, you know, overworked, underpaid, you know, and you get your comeuppance and he stone cold stunned the crap out of him. You know, I mean, that's what everybody wants. That's what made millions. 10 millions of dollars.
Do you remember when, was it Donald Trump that shaved his head?
Yeah.
I
think that was WrestleMania 23. It was what that was, a 24. Yeah.
That's enough. Donald Trump's been on wrestling shows several times. That's enough for him to get reelected.
Well, WrestleMania 4 and 5 was actually at Trump Plaza.
Yeah.
I mean, that him helping Kevin McAllister. I mean, time.
Oh my goodness.
Question for you, because Chad said it. He threw out the move. If you had to pick a greatest finisher, finishing move, is it the Stone Cold Stunner, or do you have a different finishing move?
You know mine.
You're sticking with the Stunner.
Of course.
I'm going Sweet Chin Music.
That's arguable. That was up there for sure, because it could come out of nowhere, you know. But that's one thing I hate too, because everybody does a super kick now. That's what I hate. It's like that move back then. You didn't kick out of a finisher. Now it's like everybody does a super kick, and it's not anymore.
What about this though? That was my attempt at Ric Flair.
It was horrible.
You knew what I was doing.
You have to take
though.
your shirt off and do an elbow drop on it. You got to finish it off.
Like, I want to wrestle somebody right now, except I don't want to touch anybody and get hurt or with the coronavirus.
I'm going with the sharpshooter, man. I was a sucker for, you know, technical and submissive moves, because you know, those are the moves that you always wanted to put on your little brother, or like
I'm out of breath right now.
You know, I bet you're done so. But yeah, the sharpshooter, I mean, that just looked like something, you know, there's so many iconic moments of Brett putting that maneuver on people where they're in agonizing pain, you know. Obviously the shot where Austin is from WrestleMania 13 where his face is covered in the proverbial crimson mask. You know, I mean, he is just completely drenched in his own blood, and he doesn't even tap out. He passes out because that move was so devastating, you know. So I'm going with, you know, the sharpshooter, which obviously Sting, you know, did a variation of it with the Scorpion Deathlock, but I'm going with sharpshooter, man. That was so fun to torture people with as a kid.
Right.
You know, I'm sitting here thinking, I'm sorry, Skip.
No.
Time out. I'm sitting here thinking, I can only think of 3 finishers.
Oh,
I think
God.
of DDPs, Diamond Dallas Pages. What was it called?
Diamond Cutter.
Diamond Cutter and Goldberg. I mean, the spear and the Stone Cold Stunner.
And the jackhammer.
And I can't think of any more. The name of them. I can't think of any.
Get out, Josh. Get out right now. I can't think of
Here we go.
What about the figure 4? You were just doing Ric Flair. What about the figure 4?
Well, figure 4, that's it. Yeah.
Was the submission hold of my era and the sleeper hold. The DDT was the first real like slam them into the mat finisher that came along around my era.
Tombstone? Was Undertaker's called the Tombstone? Am I making that up?
Yeah. No, you're right.
Yeah.
Tombstone Pile Driver.
Man, what's some more?
Any of the variations of the pile drivers were they were the first ones of slamming people to the mat. But I mean, you had to really play an actor's portion to make a sleeper or a figure 4 look like it actually hurt. Because we tried those in the backyard. That doesn't even hurt.
Oh, a figure 4. Oh, if you put that on right, it kills.
Yeah.
It kills. But then if you look at Nate, yeah. Well, if you look at Ric Flair's daughter Charlotte,
recliner.
she does she does a variation of it called the figure 8 is what she does. And what she does, she puts them in the figure 4, but then she like does this like back bend where she gets like this, and then their legs are completely up in the air, and it's just like it's tearing your knees and your ankles apart. But it's called the figure 8. It's pretty impressive.
Hey, Chad, you're probably the only one that even know this guy, and you're younger than the rest of them. But do you remember Kevin Sullivan and the Boston Crab?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hate Kevin Sullivan for a lot of different reasons. Anyway, yes, I totally remember that in the Boston Crab. But I think who actually made that move pretty popular, at least brought it to the forefront, was Rick Martel, the model Rick Martel. Yeah. He used that move. And then, of course, again, it all comes back to Chris Jericho. He did a variation of it. He called it the Lion Tamer in WCW, but then he called it the Walls of Jericho in WWE. But I loved his variation of it because he would actually put his knee on the back of your neck and pull up backwards like that.
Oh yeah.
But now he just, he's gotten all fat and flabby. He just does it. He just does it regular. Just pulls the two legs back. But yeah, I love the Boston Crab, man. But I hate Kevin Sullivan. Good question.
I'm sitting here. I'm all stuck on trying to think of all the names of stuff, and all I can see is Stone Cold jumping up and shooting everybody a bird and smashing a beer can on his head. Like that's stuck in my brain. That's all I can see.
So I want to quiz you, Young Bucks, just for a second.
Young Bucks, great tag team too. Check those guys out. My favorite tag team currently right now, AEW.
Hey, y'all remember Mankind?
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
God, he was nuts.
Oh.
The mandible claw. There you go. There's another finisher for you.
Oh yeah.
Did he put like a sock over his hand?
Yeah.
Mr. Socko, yeah, but it was still the same thing, Mr. Socko. He'd just stick his finger in your mouth and cut off your air supply.
Yeah.
Actually, Bray Wyatt, that's his move now too.
I met Bray Wyatt at Tampa Airport 2 months ago.
He was a yellow dreadlock hair guy, right?
Yes. I was walking on the plane, and I walked past him, and I was like, that's a wrestler. Like, I'm trying to remember who it is. I'm like, he looks like a wrestler, and I know I've seen him before. And it's so funny that me and my wife will end up, we don't sit down and like purposely watch wrestling, but once or twice a month, we end up watching wrestling.
When you watch it, right?
Like we end up watching it, an accident, and next thing you know, an hour's gone by, And so when I got off the plane, I was like, man, I want to meet him. I want to talk to him and definitely get the old, selfie. And we end up in the bathroom, and he was in there freshening up. And I was like, this would be weird. Like I thought about doing it because we weren't at the urinal. It would totally be weird at the urinal. But he's over here by the sink. But anyway, so I didn't. And so I'm like, crap, I wasted my moment. So I'm walking to baggage claim, and I'm like, this is stupid. And I get something to drink, and I'm over there. The next thing I know, he walks up beside me. And I was like, yes, this is so I got a picture with him, talked to him for a minute. Super nice guy. I mean,
you know who his dad is,
really
don't you?
Cool. His dad is his dad's a wrestler, and his brother is too, isn't he?
Yeah.
What's his name?
His dad is he used to be IRS. He was tagging with Ted DiBiase, $1 Million Man, in Money Incorporated. And then his brother is Bo Dallas. His brother is Bo Dallas.
That's right. Yeah. Super cool guy.
All these cool names, and I want to quiz you guys on stage names versus real names. See who you know and who you don't know. You want to play that game right quick?
I'm going to be terrible.
Absolutely.
But I'll play.
I bet Chad is going to clean y'all's clocks. We probably don't
know. We'll see.
So first one's an easy one. Terry Jean Belay. Who is that?
Hogan.
That's Hulk.
Yeah, Hulk.
Okay. Yeah. Josh had like who? Yeah, Hulk Hogan.
It's Terry, man.
I'll let y'all answer first, so I don't give anything away.
Yeah. So what's Triple H's real name? Anybody?
Hunter Hearst Helmsley.
Paul Levesque.
Yes, Paul. Yes. That's it.
Paul Levesque. Good.
I didn't know his last name. I knew it was Paul.
At least I knew what Triple H stood for. I mean, I ought to get a half a point for that.
So who was Mark Calloway better known as?
The Undertaker.
Oh, y'all are getting y'all's butts kicked.
I told you he would.
Big Show's real name.
Paul White.
Oh my gosh, he's killing
Hey,
me.
time out. No, listen, while we're talking about that, have y'all watched his TV show?
Not
on Netflix?
yet. Not yet. I
It's
heard it's
really
really
good.
good.
It's
Yeah,
really
yeah.
good.
It's like
Family-
the third best show on Netflix right now. I saw.
It's very
Yeah.
good. So you need to watch it. It's family friendly. My youngest Liam loves it. The big show's a good. It's worth watching.
My 8-year-old daughter, my middle daughter, she watched it. Said it was cool.
Yeah. All
So
right.
let's go to some of the women. Amy Christine Dumas, Dumas, Dumas,
Dumas, Lita,
diva known as who?
Lita.
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 Chad's batting 1,000. Okay, Cactus Jack, Mankind, and Dude Love, all the same guy. What's his name?
Oh, hang on, don't say it yet, Chad.
Sorry.
I was gonna say it. I knew that one. I
The
really
three
knew
faces
that
of
one.
Foley. Three faces
I really
of Foley.
knew that. I really
Yeah,
knew
that's what
that.
y'all do. Y'all think about it first, because I'm pretty much gonna know a lot of these. Y'all do your thing.
Give us a chance here.
Okay,
Okay.
sorry.
That was the only one I knew.
Here's
so
an
far.
easy one. Aurelian Smith Jr. His dad was also a wrestler.
Smith Jr.
And fun fact about his dad.
Say that again. Who is it
Spell
again
it.
now?
Spell this person.
Aurelian Smith Jr. And I'll give
Spell
you
it.
Aurelian Smith.
It's not-
A-U-R.
And
It's not the British Bulldogs
no,
son, is it?
no. Here's a hint. This guy's dad was also a wrestler, and this guy came into existence because his dad raped a 13-year-old.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah.
Did we just go there? I'm more lost now than I was before.
Is this allegedly, or did he actually do this? The raping.
Out of Jake the Snake's Roberts' own mouth.
Because a lot of people are saying that Macho Man was involved with Stephanie at a very young age. And so I don't know if that's what you're relating to or not.
No, the
Okay, good.
guy I'm talking about is Jake the Snake Roberts, and his dad was the one that did the alleged raping. So what?
I don't know.
Skip took it dark pretty quick. It's the
Escalated quickly.
So, okay, easy one. What's Sting's real name? Not from the police, but Sting, the wrestler.
Steve Borden.
Yes. And finally, what was Chris Benoit known before he was Chris Benoit?
Did you put a Chris Benoit in there? Really?
Yeah.
There's been some really bad Chris Benoit memes lately.
Oh,
like
yeah.
his Japanese name.
I don't know if it was Japanese.
Because he was
Christopher.
Well, he had nicknames. He was the Crippler cross. He was the Crippler, and then he was the Wolverine. But I cannot remember when he wore a mask. Was it when he wore a mask? You know,
I can't remember.
I can't remember off the top of my head.
It's the Pegasus Kid.
Yeah.
Pegasus Kid.
Oh, I thought you were talking about his real name.
No, his stage name.
Oh, well, you did that opposite. I knew that. I mean, you were giving us wrestling names, and we had to guess their real name. That's why you threw me off. Jeez.
Pegasus Kid, yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Fake news, too, Chad. You'll figure that out.
My God. Oh, my gosh.
By the way, Chad, you get to play fake news with us tonight, too.
Hey, I've got a trivia.
Yeah.
Chad, I got a trivia for you. Why did Stone Cold quit wrestling?
Which time?
The final time. The real reason.
Well, when he walked out, was because he didn't want to put over talent. That was one of the reasons. And money and not putting over talent. That was what he's admitted to now.
Medically.
Medically, it was his neck was one reason.
Spinal stenosis.
Yeah, same thing with Edge, and same thing with Daniel Bryan and a lot of those guys. Man, it put them out for a while. And props to Edge. I don't know if you guys know this, but Edge came back. He retired after spinal stenosis and neck injury a couple years or 9 years ago, but he actually just came back. He worked his way back to clearance. So props to him.
That's cool.
Wow,
that's cool.
So let's look at some of our comments over here. See if we got any questions. Anything he wants to? Here we go.
Tatanka. Tatanka was great.
I love Tatanka. I love it. I love Tatanka.
Yes. The
Ridiculous
Road
thing.
Warriors. The Road Warriors. That's the guys that wore the shoulder pads and.
Oh yeah, with the
man.
Hawk and Animal.
Somebody talked about the Bushwhackers too, man. They were great.
Yeah.
They were great on Family Matters. Did you guys ever watch that episode?
Oh,
You guys ever watch
Bam Bam Bigelow?
Yeah, rest in peace, man. He was incredible. The Beast from the East.
Who else? What else? We got Lex Luger. You know, some of the funny stuff is you think about some of these wrestlers, you know, like Stone Cold Steve Austin, like his first name was like Pretty Boy Joe or something like that. He had like blonde hair and it was just
Stunning Steve.
Stunning Steve, that was it. And he was like a tool, you know, I mean, and then he became Steve Austin. It was like the opposite of that. That was great. Yokozuna, that's a good one.
Did you know he was Samoan? He wasn't even Japanese.
That's about right.
No, yeah.
Wow.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, he's related to like the Roman Reigns. How do you pronounce that? It's A''Noai family with like the Usos and Jimmy Snuka and all those tribal characters.
So you guys remember when Christy Lauper was a manager on WWF back in the day?
Absolutely.
Had Captain Lou Albano in one of her music videos.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
that was for the build for WrestleMania 1. Man, they had to cross over to the music and pop culture scene to make it work.
And
Junkyard Dog. God, I forgot about Junkyard Dog. Man, that's awesome.
Brutus the Barber Beefcake. He was good.
Oh yeah.
That was a '90s gimmicky.
He just got inducted. Was it last or the year before last into the Hall of Fame?
Yeah.
And he actually, do you guys remember Brutus on WrestleMania 9 at all? He had like a really bad motorcycle accident and messed his face up. So he and Hogan were teaming, and they came out and they were going up against Money Incorporated, which was Ted DiBiase and IRS, and they were the tag champs at the time. But Brutus came out with like this red and yellow mask. Do y'all remember that at all?
I do.
Yeah,
I do.
Yeah, he was protecting his precious face from and ironically, Hogan got punched in the eye. I don't know by who. I think it was because he was trying to invoke his creative control power because he later became champion at the very end of that show out of nowhere. Bret Hart or Yokozuna beat Bret Hart in the main event, and then they said Yokozuna can beat anybody, and then Hogan's like, I'll take him on, and then he wins in like 5 seconds.
Oh God!
How about Coach wearing his parrot?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Hey, the Four Horsemen. We haven't talked about that.
No doubt.
We haven't talked about that.
Greatest factions.
Goldust. What a weirdo. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Greatest faction has to be D-Generation X.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw something out.
You can't talk about the Attitude Era and not say DX is the greatest faction.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of suspensions made at school because of that, for sure. No, true story. I was in computer class, and I was doing a crotch chop behind my teacher's back, and he actually turned around and saw me, throws me out of the classroom, but the door was so open so all my classmates could hear. Mr. Shrigley, do you remember him, Adam?
I do.
It was Mr. Shrigley. Yes, it was Mr. Shrigley. And this was during the time of like the Bill Clinton scandal, right? And he throws me into class. He goes, "Who do you think you are, President Clinton?" Just like that. And I'll never forget that. And I just laughed in his face. And then I don't even know what else he said. But anyway, that's my crotch chop DX story.
I'm gonna be honest. I still do that. I've never got rid of the 12-year-old.
At least once or twice a week at the office.
I do that to Skip all the time. I forgot what we were driving somewhere the other day, and I said something, he said something, and we laughed, and I was like, I'm so glad that I've never grown out of this immature humor.
Absolutely keeps you young, man.
And I hope I never do. I hope like certain things, like somebody rips a fart, like it's funny, and I hope that's always going to be funny. or somebody says something. I don't know. I just I'm glad that at 37 I haven't grown out of that, and I don't plan on it anytime soon.
Well, I'm not
Can't
going
grow out of farts.
No. So I'm gonna throw this guy out there, and I'm pretty sure that Josh is not going to have any idea that this guy was a wrestler. Gooch might have an idea, and Chad, I'm pretty sure you probably had this guy on your show if you've brought on any guests.
Dusty Rhodes?
Who?
Dusty Rhodes?
No.
Who?
So, Sheriff Rick Singleton in Lauderdale County used to be a masked wrestler on the local circuits. And
I've seen this picture.
And years ago, he was one of my clients at one of my other insurance agencies. So I go to take care of some business with him, and he's got his old mask that were hanging in his office. It's pretty cool.
Absolutely, yeah.
He was like the rope back in the day.
You know, a wrestling we haven't talked about is midget wrestling. So a friend of mine that I graduated high school with, his name's Thumper Pig. I'm not making that up. He is a pastor in Fayetteville, Tennessee now at a church there. Awesome guy. Was always an awesome guy. And he's a little dude. I mean, he is. He's not a midget. Thumper's a little guy. But his dad was also a little guy, not a midget, but he was the referee for midget wrestling.
Wow, do they?
It's a draw, man. It's crazy. It's that carny lifestyle, you know.
Yeah.
It goes. If I'm not mistaken, I feel like midget wrestling goes further back than actual pro wrestling. I think that was kind of introduced, you know, at the fairs and at the carnivals back in like the late 1800s. You know, and I think if I'm not mistaken, I think Abe Lincoln was somehow involved in a midget wrestling promotion.
Oh wow,
I love that.
True story.
I didn't know that, but I love him more now.
I mean, how did it even come to be? Okay, like here's these two people that are different from the rest of them, the rest of everybody else. Let's make them fight and see.
Yeah, why not? Have you?
It's
ever
an attraction.
Seen it?
It's an attraction.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I have a fascination a little bit, anyways, with that. But like, midget wrestling is so funny. I mean, and you know what? Good for them for capitalizing and turning a frown upside down. You know, like I just think it's awesome when people own their whatever it is, because we're all screwed up in certain ways and things like that, and just owning it and, you know, smiling about it and going on and that kind of stuff. And you know what? I just think that's so cool.
Yeah.
I just think it's so cool, the boldness and, you know, just being, hey, you know what? I'm going to do this. And you talk about great, and them overcoming that physical part of, because I mean, they got little bitty legs, little bitty arms, and when they're running and stuff,
Why
and
am I laughing? Stop.
Randy Newman. That's why you're laughing.
They're flipping around,
Like
and bouncing off the ropes, and they're taking people out. I mean, like, it's awesome. It's awesome.
So, true story. As we're talking about, obviously, I guess we're talking about airports and midgets and wrestling and all that now. A couple of years ago, I'm on my way to New Jersey, and I hop on a flight in Charlotte, because you either have to go to Atlanta or Charlotte to get anywhere in the world. And of course, I get on the plane, first class, first row, wee man.
Perfect.
He
He was sitting there like this.
He was.
wrestled you.
Bless him. He did not need the leg room, but as I go back to row 37,
He had his feet like on the he had his feet like on that fold out food tray, right? Just like
Yeah.
propped up.
I can see.
I fall from my 6 feet, 260 pounds into my 6 inches of leg room in my spot, and I'm like,
Do you guys y'all know Jerry Phillips at all? I'm sure y'all may have met him before. Well, you know, he obviously his connection to Memphis is, you know, out of this world. But he trained in Memphis wrestling and was actually the world's what was his nickname? The world's most perfectly formed midget wrestler. And you know, he's a little guy, but he would kick the crap out of people. Like, dude, he was a professional wrestler, but he did midget wrestling, but that was his actual size because he didn't grow that much, you know, in his earlier years. He was a tough son of a gun. I mean, I've heard so many stories about him. Yeah, he was, and that's what he wants on his tombstone is the world's most perfectly formed midget wrestler is what he said. And I mean, he's not someone to mess with. Like, I mean, he'll flip real quick and beat the crap out of you. I mean,
That's
he'll
awesome.
kick you in the knees a lot. You know, your knees will get weak. You know,
Yeah,
he had sweet shin music was his move.
You know,
That's great.
there's a lot of people that have kind of over the years, especially around Memphis, they've gotten into the wrestling fray, and I don't know if you and Chad, you may be aware of this too.
Hang on. Did he just say the wrestling fray?
Oh, shut up, Josh Kelly. So George Klein, which is the first radio DJ to play an Elvis record, in his later years, he managed wrestlers in the Memphis area, and for years, that's kind of how he made a living. I ended up meeting him kind of by accident at the Horseshoe Casino when I was living up in that area. He had kind of retired and was the host down there, and
you were just accidentally at the Horseshoe Casino, right?
I accidentally met him at the Horseshoe Casino on my birthday, and you swipe your card, and they bring you all this cool stuff. And George was the one that brought it over. He was one of the hosts down there, and we kind of got to be friends. But up until he died, he had a radio show on Sirius XM doing Elvis stuff once a week. But yeah, tons of people over the years from pop culture have crossed over into that. And I think that a lot of that pop culture crossover has contributed to wrestling just being sprawled out everywhere. I mean, it's created fans everywhere.
Yeah.
Yes.
You got back into that, all the, especially during that, we talk about that NWO, like time in WCW. But like you had the Rodmans of the world, like remember Karl Malone?
Oh, yeah.
Like they all, like, you're getting all these like famous athletes. I actually heard in an interview that Dennis Rodman, who's a freak, if you've been watching The Last Dance, you know how athletic and how talented of an athlete and basketball player he was. But he said the most physically demanding, hardest thing he'd ever done was wrestle.
Yeah, Eric Bischoff, he does a podcast called 83 Weeks, and he was talking about that because apparently – some of I don't know what episode it's going to be on The Last Dance. They're going to touch on that with the whole angle because it was
Rodman and Hogan teaming together against DDP and Karl Malone.
Yeah,
which was
that.
Oh, dude, and it was great because they went on Leno, they went on talk shows, promoting it. Dude, it was so good. I mean, they paid an arm and a leg to have them both there, but they said Karl Malone was just a beast. Like he was such a great worker. Because he's been a huge wrestling fan all his life.
I had the Dennis Rodman shoes, the worms.
Absolutely.
They were low cut, and there was a ring. You zipped them up. I had those shoes. That was probably 7th, 8th grade.
Yep. You tied them, and then you zipped them up so they couldn't come untied. Yep.
I liked Dennis Rodman. I still like him.
Oh, me too. Absolutely. Well, I mean, it's like, he was like a pro wrestler. Like I mean, he had his off-camera persona and he has on-camera persona. I mean, it's just it crossovers so well into the world of just entertainment, not just pro wrestling or basketball or sports. It's just entertainment, in general. So,
could you imagine if like late 80s, early 90s, when all the big characters were going on, if we had access to the internet and be able to look up the real stories about some of those guys? I mean, we can click a few buttons and find out any and everything about the guys wrestling today, but I mean, they were mysteries.
Well, what you see is what you got. What you saw on Friday night, that's what you had. Now I see somebody that's cool, and I Wikipedia, boom, and I know their entire life story. In 30 seconds.
Yeah.
But
it's kind of the same way that Jordan's being portrayed now in The Last Dance. I know we just kind of talk about that. Everybody has this clean cut, which he's always going to be my favorite of all time. But we're finding out this other side of Jordan that because I was so used to the Come Fly With Me VHS or the Michael Jordan's Playground or Hang Time, like all those VHSs, Space Jam, obviously, yeah. And you have this image, right? And now it's not like my image is, it's been distorted all, but you go, there's a lot more to this cat than what we knew growing up.
For sure. Yeah.
Well, guys,
I'm on episode 3 of that now. I hadn't watched the last one yet.
So good.
It's been good. It's been an hour and 15 minutes.
Yeah. Yep. Chad, you have you've dropped a lot of knowledge on us, and you have confirmed the fact that we don't know hardly anything about what we thought we might know about.
I have too much time on my hands. Let's just say that. You can say what it is. Like, Chad, get a life.
But,
Hey, you get paid to do this. I love it.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we don't
I've
have
had a
any.
blast. Thank you guys for having me. Had a really, really,
Yeah.
really good time.
Love it.
Doesn't look like we've got any more comments over there. So we got a little game we play at the end of each show. Chad, we'd love for you to stay on and play with us. It's called Fake News.
Let's do it.
All right.
The fake news.
You are fake news.
So maybe they were fake news.
That is a lot of fake news.
Fake news.
Fake news.
Fake news.
Fake news. It's fake news. Fake news.
Fake news.
Fake news.
Fake news.
All right. So Fake News is a game show. Josh,
There you go. You mean tell me how to play it? So here's what happens here, Cadillac. Skip has 3 news stories. One of them's real. 2 of them are fake. He tries to throw us off, and we have to pick which one's real out of the 3 stories. So one of them's for sure real. 2 of them are fake. We decide which one's real.
and Josh has been known to cheat just a bit at this game.
How do you cheat? I'm not Googling anything.
No, you just change your answer after Gooch answers his. Y'all are tied up right now, aren't you?
That's
How can you play a game about fake news or real news when you just talk about wrestling when it's real or fake? I mean, that's where. How do we do this?
I mean,
how do you conclude this?
strategy.
Strategery.
So right now, Adam and I are tied on our record. I don't know what our record is. For a long time, I was up by 1. He has tied back up with me now, and so we're at even count.
All right, hit it.
Fake news. Story number 1. This comes out of Jacksonville, Florida.
Oh gosh.
Florida man spends entire stimulus check on scratch-offs, wins $6 million. This is from the Associated Press out of Jacksonville, Florida. Little did John Devereaux know that when he made his weekly stop into Buc-ee's off of I-295 to buy lottery tickets, that this would be his week. Devereaux, a 32-year-old Home Depot manager, has been buying lottery tickets at the Buc-ee's across the street from his home improvement store every Friday since he transferred to the Jacksonville store from his hometown in Houma, Louisiana. This week was different. He and his wife, Jill, a stay-at-home mom, had been discussing how to use their $2,900 stimulus check. They chose to buy 2,900 $1 Lucky Duck scratch-off tickets. Jill said, we were sitting in our living room scratching off all these cards. About an hour into it, John started screaming. He had uncovered 3 ducks with $6 million printed over them. The couple claimed their prize Monday in Tallahassee and are making plans to retire back to home in Houma, Louisiana.
Yeah, I don't mean to interrupt you. So, Skip, what city, Louisiana, was it?
This was Jacksonville.
No, you said Louisiana.
Oh, Houma. H-O-U-M-A.
Oh, Houma. Okay.
Puma is actually how they say it.
Okay.
That's how the Cajuns say it, Puma.
Well, you say it however you want to say it.
I think that was a, never mind. Friendly. Let's go.
All right. So that is story number 1.
Very compelling.
Story number 2. 64-year-old man accidentally ejected him.
What's that funny? You can't touch me because I'm in a different city.
Throw something to you through the internet. A 64-year-old man accidentally ejects himself from a fighter jet at 2,500 feet. This is out of Paris from CNN. A surprise company outing to an airbase caused a 64-year-old French man so much stress that he flung himself from a fighter jet in midair, grabbing the ejector button in a panic and tumbling through the skies above France before landing in a field. The man had been surprised by employees at his firm who organized the joyride as a treat for his birthday.
Josh, quit Googling it.
Nope. Phone's right here. I'm right. I take notes.
Okay.
Yeah, I take notes. This is very serious.
Okay, so 64-year-old man accidentally ejected himself.
All right.
Watch how you say that.
I was thinking the same thing.
Story number 3.
All right.
Ohio senator requests SpaceX to push Starlink train of satellites into a higher orbit due to his office being inundated with alien invasion calls. This comes out of Cincinnati, Ohio, from the Associated Press. Ohio Senator Rob Portman says his office has been overwhelmed with calls from people who have been watching the SpaceX train of satellites crossing the sky each night in low Earth orbit. Satellite project, which endeavors to launch 12,000 satellites to stream broadband internet to every corner of the Earth, has been mistaken by thousands of Ohioans as an alien invasion. Senator Portman, who sits on the Intelligence Committee, has requested that something be done to quell people's fears of the unusually bright satellite train that is visible with the naked eye. In an email to Elon Musk, founder of SpaceX, obtained Tuesday by the Associated Press, Portman suggests the satellites be moved into a higher orbit so they could not be seen with the naked eye. And those are your three stories.
So, number 2, I'm questioning because I don't think a 64-year-old would be allowed to fly in a fighter jet.
That makes sense.
I just don't see how that would happen. And also at the same time that they would actually give him the controls to let him eject himself.
I can't help but laugh when you say that.
It's France. It's France.
That's why I don't think a 64 would be able to do that as
well. So, wee on the eject yourself. And number
yeah, okay.
Number 1, Gooch, Skip's go-to Cajun name is Devereaux.
Devereaux.
That's Skip's go-to Cajun name when he makes things up.
My go-to Cajun name is Boudreaux.
So I think that feels fake in a lot of ways.
It does, definitely.
On the Ohio State Senator thing, that sounds that I'm leaning towards 3 as the real story. What are you guys thinking?
Adam?
Yeah.
No, we don't lock it in yet. This is the discussion part, and then we lock it in.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think 1 is fake. I'm out on that one. With as much as has been going on with Elon and the Starlink deal this week, I'm leaning to 3 being the real story because fighter. But then the problem, Chad, that we always run into is Skip is a master. Like he could work for CNN if he wanted to, because he is a spin master. So normally you have to come into this game trying to figure out not which one feels real, what is Skip trying to do to us to make
the delivery. It's the delivery.
Yeah. So my concern is 3 seems the most real, and I want to lean that way, which makes me not want to lean that way.
See, that's the way I was trying to observe it as well. Like I wasn't watching his body language. I was like audibly just listening to how he, conveyed it to us,
Yeah.
And then we got to the ejection.
Well, I mean, or he could be saying, you know what? I'm going to put a really obvious one in here that's actually real, so they'll think that it's fake, but it's really real.
Sounds like a CNN analyst to me. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like Kim Jong on the Masked Singer right now. I'm leaning towards whose turn is it to go first? Yours?
Yeah, it's mine. I'm gonna go 3 is real.
I am too. I'm locking in 3 is real as well.
6.
I'll be honest with you. I think 1 sounds kind of legit, but I'm a heavy follower of Tesla and SpaceX and Elon, and I'm kind of in agreement with you, Adam. Like that sounds like something with all the Starlink stuff that's going on right now. Like that just might be so far fetched. Like that's legit, real. Right. Yeah. And you gave all these like weird numbers about like the Wi-Fi capacity of the range and all that jazz. Like you can't make those numbers up, right? I mean, can you? I don't know.
Yes, he can.
I mean, maybe. I'm gonna go with 3, man, because I'm part of the Tesla cult.
Okay, so we'll have 1 for the SpaceX story. Is that your final answer, Chad?
Yeah, I'm locking it in. Final answer.
Yep, locked.
Yeah.
SpaceX. Everybody's
Yeah.
locked in on SpaceX. 64-year-old man accidentally ejected himself from a fighter jet.
No way.
100 feet.
God.
That's awesome, though.
They apparently didn't know their colleague as well as they thought once the man arrived at the Saint Desire Air Base in northeastern France and realized that his coworkers had arranged. He began to feel extremely stressed, according to the fairly remarkable aviation report reported by the French government agency. The unnamed man had never expressed any desire to fly in a fighter jet and had no previous military aviation experience. Thanks to a watch he was wearing, which could measure his heart rate, investigators noticed that his heart was in full tachycardia before the flight with a recorded heart rate ranging from 136 to 142 beats per minute. But the man went through with the ride, joining a 3-plane training exercise as a passenger. When the jet was at 2,500 feet above ground, the pilot began to climb. The passenger panicked and reached for something to hold on to. Unfortunately, that something was the ejector seat handle, and the 64-year-old flew from the fighter jet. To make matters worse, he had not securely attached his helmet, which went flying in midair. Fortunately, the man avoided serious injury after tumbling to the earth in a field near the German border. The pilot was not ejected and managed to land the plane safely despite suffering some minor facial injuries during the ordeal from the exposed cockpit area.
Wow.
I'm just impressed that a 64-year-old man could eject himself.
That's what I'm saying.
Kudos, man.
Hey, he was just looking for something to hold on to.
It was one of the like premature ejaculations kinds, right? That's what it was. It's very premature.
While he was in
expecting
the cockpit.
That's what it was.
Definitely was a premature.
A very untimely death. Yeah.
I tell you, those planes fly fast. Like,
Yes.
I don't know how much a fighter jet costs, but I'm sure it's in the millions. Like,
10 millions.
That's billion. But I don't know how much they cost, but that could have been bad. Look, obviously he was a rich dude, because I'm sure it's not cheap to fly in a fighter jet, you know.
I think so.
So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. He got
us.
Stumped you. Love it.
Sounds like a French man to me.
Yeah.
Golly. Well, Chad, for real, man, thank you so much for taking time out of your night to join us. Loved having you. Remember, you can always check out Chad every single Wednesday, 97.9 Fox Sports shows with the Wrestling Reel, or you can catch him nonstop all over the shows with Drum and Drummer. If you got a party, a wedding, you want a good time, you need to call and book Drum and Drummer. I promise you'll have a good time with those guys.
Yeah, Adam, Josh, Skip, I had an awesome time. Really, really good time. And I'm glad I was able to, take time off from my busy schedule here tonight to be with you guys. So I really had a blast, man. It's a release for me as well. So thanks a lot.
Thank you so much for being on with us this week. I guess that's all for this week. And thanks for listening in, guys. Thanks again, Chad, for joining us. A treat for us, too.
Absolutely. Make sure you follow us on Facebook at The Guy Pod. And also, please go and subscribe to us on iTunes, YouTube. You can listen to us directly at www.theguypod.com or find us wherever you listen to your podcast.
We love hearing from our fans. We love hearing ideas for shows. If you have any interest in sponsoring or doing advertising with the Guy Pod, you can contact us at therealguypod@gmail.com. That's therealguypod@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you guys for joining us. So other than that, that is it for this episode of the Guy Pod. So for Chad Burdine, Josh Kelly, and Skip Nichols, I'm Adam Gooch. And remember,
when you're in over your head,
the first thing to do is close your mouth.